Hi guys, my name's Thea and I'm a member here, but you probably haven't seen me a lot in class because I do open gym mainly. 30 weeks pregnant on Saturday, and I just thought I would talk you through a few things that you need to consider, and if you ever get pregnant or even if you're postpartum, because you can definitely absolutely still train and still be athletic. You just have to make appropriate changes. If you look it up online, there's a lot of fixed rules about what you are and aren't supposed to do, but everyone's bodies are different and every person is different, so it should be individualized adjustments according to you rather than blanket rules. There's so many things that say don't do it and it's confusing that you end up not doing it because you're like, well, if it is potentially dangerous, I just won't. And if you think there's a risk and you're pregnant, you're obviously not going to be comfortable taking that risk. You want to keep your baby safe. So generally people steer on the side of caution and end up doing less or not very much because they're worried. Whereas actually there are loads of things that you can still do when you're pregnant. Exercise isn't dangerous unless you're going to do something crazy like try and run 3 marathons in a day. Exercise isn't dangerous when you're pregnant. It's actually really helpful. You want to be strong in your pregnancy, you want to be strong for your labour, and you need to be strong when you're a mum. You're going to be doing lots of lifting of little children. So 4 main things to think about when you find out you're pregnant and throughout your pregnancy is the first one is the talk test. If you're exercising and you're going so fast and your heart rate's so out of control that you can answer a sentence back like, how are you? I'm fine. What are you doing today? I'm about to go to the shops. If you can't say that without gasping, you're going too fast. The second one is try not to exceed a 7 out of 10 effort, and that can also be like trying not to exceed 70% with your lifts. Then you've obviously got your core considerations. As you grow, your cores are already being stretched and there will be changes that are happening to your core in that time. Things like sit-ups, they're not dangerous, but they do put unnecessary load on your stomach. Toes to bar, pull-ups, and you'll know because there'll start to be signs that things don't look right. So there'll be things that you can look out for, and that will be your cue to change those. It'll be different depending on how big you are, how strong your core was before, loads of things like that. And then the final one is obviously take out impact, so box jumps, skipping. After 12 weeks isn't a great idea because baby gets quite heavy and your pelvic floor is like a knit of muscles. That's all that is there. So if you put a weight on it and then you bounce the weight up and down, that's a lot of strain. But in general, there aren't many things that are dangerous, but they might not necessarily be very good for you and for your recovery postpartum. So that's why there are those considerations. But the talk test, that one's important in terms of keeping you and your baby safe. So another thing to think about, and loads of people struggle with the mental side of pregnancy and the changes and changing training. This is just a chapter in your life and you can get back to what you did before. But what you really need to consider when you're struggling to make adaptations is the risk versus reward. For instance, yes, it would be a terrible idea. I could still do toes to bar, probably. Could it really damage my core? Maybe. And what am I actually going to get out of it? So every time you're having this kind of athlete brain moment when you're like, don't want to let go of what you could do before and make those adjustments, just think, is it worth it? Like, could I be doing some damage to myself that I don't get actually anything out of it in the moment? Because I still get a really hard workout and change it to a million different exercises. There's so much you can do. So just there's going to be a few things you have to take out. It's not a big deal. And then the last thing to touch on is your Olympic lifting. So I stopped Olympic lifting probably about 20 weeks because if you imagine, if you turn sideways, when you get bigger, your bump's in the way. So if you've been training your bar path for a long time to keep your bar straight, as you get bigger, you're going to avoid trying to hit your bump by going round. So what you'll end up with is a kind of reverse bicep curl technique. So it's worth thinking about changing it to dumbbells or kettlebells, not because you can't Olympic lift, but you'll have to retrain your technique, which you may have spent years working on. So it's worth considering whether you need to do that. Okay, guys, thanks so much for listening. If there are any mums-to-be or postpartum mums that have any questions, feel free to drop me a message, and I'm around the gym all the time, most afternoons. So if you've got anything you want to know or check with me, I'm more than happy to help. And I'll see you guys around.